Hello, everyone. Welcome to our February subscription interview. Lucas from Ilse should be hopping on at any moment, but before then, I wanted to let you all know I have made a tweak in my method of brewing on pour over at home. And I will say this is a result of actually testing different pour over methods with the Comet staff at Comet, which is, I think, pretty exciting, quite honestly. About a week or two ago, we did, I believe, 5 different tests. And through that, there are a couple different things that us at Comet are now doing differently in all of our pour overs that we make at Comet. And that is one, we never swirl the beds anymore, whether after any pour, we never swirl them at all. We did a test of different of 3 different brews, one no swirls, one swirls, one with a couple different swirls, and we all prefer the one without any swirls and added that that is a variable that people swirl differently, and so we kind of wanted to eliminate that variable from making pour overs and consistency across every employee. And we think we've been making better brews, quite honestly. So that as well as when we pour from the center in circles going to the outside and coming back in for 10 seconds each. That's now kind of included in terms of how I make pour overs at home as well as in the cafe. This is kind of our now new standard, and we actually have more tests on the way, and we are very much looking forward to doing them, which is exciting, and that will probably be within the next 1 to 2, 3 months. And so stay tuned for that. It will just continue to help us understand how to brew well, quite honestly. And our tests and what we want to do and figure out how to brew better comes from many different professionals in the industry. And if you've watched these videos, some of those people are where it comes from, specifically Emi Fukuhori from Mame in Zurich. Fun fact, if you ever go to Tokyo, Japan, Mame is now opening a cafe there, which is really exciting. Emi's originally from there, so that is just a very neat thing, and you should definitely go and check that out. Give me 1 second. I am so sorry. I'm getting all the notifications everywhere. Uh, Awesome. And Lucas is running just a tad behind because he just said he does not have Zoom on his computer. Uh, hold on there, Lucas. Oh, perfect. I think he's right here. Hey.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, let's
Okay,
go. Uh,
we got it.
Thanks for installing Zoom so quickly. That I'm
Yeah,
impressed. Honestly.
no worries.
How are you doing today, Lucas?
Good. Yeah, yeah, doing really well. How are you? It's nice to see you again.
Yes, same. I briefly, while waiting just a few minutes, I was just kind of telling the world about some of our different pour over methods that I'm kind of now sending out with each subscription. So after this video, I'll actually send you, if I haven't already, just like my dial-in notes, how I brew for both every pour over of each of the coffees that we got from you, as well as espresso. Um,
Nice.
it's just fun. Just have way too
Yeah,
much.
that's great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, to begin, kind of just wanted to start, with you telling us about you and Rebecca and how Ilsa started. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, sorry that Rebecca couldn't join us today, but yeah. So me and Rebecca, we started Ilsa in 2019. We started super small, just kind of the two of us. We're a couple, and we kind of always wanted to start a company together. And we both kind of fell in love with coffee. Probably now about like I don't know, like 10 or so years ago, we both just kind of fell in love with coffee. just kind of a story of just never knew that coffee could taste good on its own. It kind of just like had, we were like normal coffee drinkers, but didn't really know much about it. And we both just kind of discovered kind of the flavor potential of coffee and just kind of blew our minds. So, we both worked as baristas and different things. I got a job at a roasting company in Massachusetts where I learned how to roast originally. And then we had the opportunity to kind of start our own thing. We kind of always wanted to, and we had kind of essentially, we my mom at the same time was opening a restaurant and she needed help with that. So we both left our jobs and decided to help her open a restaurant at the same time start our roasting company. We started by renting time at someone's roastery. And then my mom was our first wholesale account. And and we really just kind of started super small, just kind of like very much on our days off, working a ton, and just kind of building it as we kind of could. And then a couple years into it, then kind of like the pandemic happened, and during that time, we had kind of grown a little bit. I think we kind of like we had like a pretty strong sense of like who we wanted to be as a company and the type of coffees that we wanted to source. Like we very much like we like clean, washed coffees that are like just like really high quality coffees, and we like to my cat's joining. We like to we're very like we want to be really intentional with our sourcing, and so we kind of felt like we were trying to kind of like fill a bit of like a void in like the American coffee landscape and just try and like do things a little bit differently and like kind of just in the style that we liked it. So yeah, long story short, we like kind of have kind of slowly grown over time. And then during the pandemic, we were given the opportunity to purchase the roaster that we were renting. So we did that. And then we moved it about a year later to where we are now in the northwest corner of Connecticut.
Yeah.
And in that time too, we were able to like leave our jobs and make this our full-time job, which has been really exciting the last couple of years. And yeah, so that's kind of like a brief origin story of us and how we kind of got started. But
Yeah.
yeah.
So before I start asking a lot of questions, I should begin by saying, how much time do you have for me to ask so many questions?
I got I think I'm pretty good on time. I have some time for sure. I think what you said the normal length of these are is good for me.
Okay, cool. Because it's just fun getting in depth behind you guys
Totally.
and whoever.
Yeah.
So if I remember correctly, both of you are from the northeast as well. Are you from Connecticut
Yeah,
originally?
we're both from Connecticut. Yeah, we're both from different kind of areas. I'm from like southern Connecticut, more of like a suburb of New York City, and then Rebecca's actually from where we now are. So we moved our roastery to her hometown, which is a really small town in like it's in the northwest corner of the state. So it borders the Hudson Valley of New York and the Berkshires of Massachusetts. So it's a really beautiful area, and but yeah, the town we're in is really small. There's only like 3,000 people in the town.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That's like remarkably small, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man, I wasn't expecting it to be that small. Uh,
Yeah.
I thought the town I grew up in was small, but that's a little different. Um, so, about 3,000 people, that's genuinely small, Lucas.
Yeah, no, it's very small. There's like a lot of small towns, so it's not like we're like there's a small town and there's nothing else around. There's like a lot of like where we are, like you kind of like it's one greater area. Like you're
Yeah.
regularly going into New York, you're going into Massachusetts, you're like
Yeah.
it's like a bunch of kind of these small towns that make up a greater area.
Yeah. Wow. Well, glad to hear. At some point, I will be coming up to the Northeast, and I'll definitely have to, if I can say come by and
Yeah,
hi
definitely.
or whatnot. But yeah, that's actually an area of the US that I haven't been to.
Mm.
But getting back to you, I like that you mentioned that you felt that there was a void in the American coffee market in terms of kind of like washed coffee and flavor clarity to an extent.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
during that time that you kind of maybe were starting to perceive that and look into that and even kind of feel out what you wanted to do, what were maybe like were there any like companies or roasters or any kind of professionals in the industry that you kind of were like, oh man, like kind of taking some inspiration because like you thought they were doing a good job or just yeah, just kind of
Yeah,
wondering.
definitely. Like I think like when I first got into coffee, um, like my original like introduction to coffee was actually like Blue Bottle. It was like a Blue Bottle like subscription, um, which kind of got me in the door. And then soon after that, I actually this was like probably like 10, 11 years ago. Soon after that, I kind of discovered a friend of mine like got his coffee from this roastery in Europe, and it ended up being the Coffee Collective, which so then I switched to their subscription. And and yeah, I think we definitely like as a whole, like there's definitely roasters that we really kind of look up to and like think are really great. And Coffee Collective being one of them. I think that they're kind of like in my eyes, it's interesting. They're like they seem to be like growing a lot right now, which is exciting for them. But I think that they've done a really great job in like the coffees that they source, the relationship approach to their sourcing, and just like I think they've grown in a really impressive way. I think there's like a lot of companies that like grow and then it ends up like sacrificing certain things, and usually it's quality. And I think that like they've done a really good job of like growing in like a really respectable way, so I definitely we look to them for like inspiration for sure. I don't know, like I think we like a lot of other like European roasters, like Tim Wendelboe is kind of like a classic. And in the States, like I would say, like, Say is definitely a roaster that we like a lot. We're yeah, we definitely like their coffees. And yeah, there's a couple others too for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like overall, like in the past at least, like Coffee Collective's definitely been like a roastery that we like think like, yeah, it'd be really cool to like grow in a similar path that they have, you know.
Yeah. I actually don't know right now. Do y'all have a cafe or are you primarily a roaster?
We're primarily a roastery, so our main business is like, yeah, like wholesale and some direct to consumer and stuff. But yeah, we do have a small cafe at our roastery.
Hey,
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
right. That's actually
Which has
really
been really nice. It's been nice to just like brew our coffee and like share it with people. And also it's just as a mainly wholesale roasting company, it's really helpful for us to like brew it ourselves so that we can then see how it performs in a cafe setting, and then we can like help, troubleshoot and stuff like that.
cool.
So
Well, that's absolutely wonderful. Say's a great roastery as well, and kind of one of the we have roasters in the US and different continents that kind of we work with either on like a long-term basis or like a short term or
mhm.
kind of in an in-between way and they're one of those and very much very good. I was looking back at our notes or at least my notes from when I got to first chat with you and Rebecca and I remember having written down that like you guys love washed coffees and just like clear expressions and so I was like wow that really does remind me of Say like I didn't
Mhm.
realize how much of a thing that kind of carried over, so to speak. But I just love how your guys's. I mean, yeah, I think I said this to you before. The branding is kind of what got us to look at you guys. A
Mm.
year or so ago when it was still the old, so to speak,
Mhm. Mhm.
and just the colors that you guys do are just wonderful. What got you the idea to be so colorful in your now boxes and just kind of everything in that regard? Yeah.
Yeah, I think yeah, I don't know. I think like we like color, we like kind of like expressive things, and like I think we're both like interested in like art and stuff, and like so yeah, and I think we also noticed that like a lot of brands are like afraid to utilize color, I think it's like safer maybe to not. Um but we love it and we think it's super fun. I think like we always had in our so like yeah, like we had like a pretty big like rebranding last year. And our old packaging and branding was also very colorful, and we wanted to kind of like maintain that through the switch. um and so now we have the boxes, which we have like 9 different colors, and we'll probably add more along the way. and yeah, I think it's just really nice, I think it's just like it's refreshing, and I think it's like yeah, it's just like it's something that we like to see. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it does it well, and as we, as you chat about each of the coffees, uh, they very much the colors represented each coffee so well, and that was
Mm.
really neat to. It's just always appreciated, like you said, there's a lot of coffee roasters that just kind of don't utilize color, and I don't know, it gives an impression that's more lasting to me personally.
Yeah, and I think too, like, yeah, on a flavor perspective too, like when we talk about flavor in coffee, like we're often like referring to colors, and I think it's like it's very applicable, It's like maybe it can be like weird at first for people to think that like, oh, this coffee tastes purple or whatever, but it's like it's a thing. So
It very much is. In fact, yeah, at this point, I'm trying to think of all the roasters we work with. There's at least, including you guys for like right now, I think we have like six roasters that like are utilizing color in a way.
Mhm.
And it's just neat to see because even our staff look at it and they're like, this makes sense, and so it's neat to see our customers then, get excited about these. And actually one of the people who came to pick up their subscription, um, saw your coffee and was like, oh my gosh, it's in a box. I was like, yeah. They're like, and it's colorful. And I was like, yeah, like they were just like so excited. And I was like,
That's
I,
awesome.
I love that. I love the energy that's already just present in what
Yeah,
you put
that's
out.
great.
Yeah, yeah. Well, just kind of starting to talk about the coffees. I'd love to hear kind of just, yeah, how you got to work with whoever it is, and or just a little bit about maybe each producer or co-op farmer, if whatever info you have, which obviously you have all the info. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
So you mean for like the specific coffees that you guys ordered?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
mhm, yeah.
totally. Yeah,
So
so I guess like I don't know, just like a note too on just like our kind of approach to coffee, and then like also in like in our packaging and stuff, like our whole kind of like thing with coffee is like we describe ourselves as like an ingredient driven coffee company. So with that said, like most of our effort is to like try and find the best raw ingredient and then roast it in a way just to bring out the flavor that's there. And then like in our packaging, what we want to do is we want it to be like very like producer forward. So like the whole idea is that like, for example, like, you guys got like a lot of really nice coffees, and like for reference, like Abel Salinas, like we want like his name to be like front and center, and like the people behind the coffee are what make the coffee what they are, and like we roast it and we take a lot of care in that process, but like in the end of the day, like it needs to start with the really good ingredient, so just our whole approach to coffee is just like sourcing is the most important thing, and then our roasting is a lot easier when we source good coffee, because it's easier to make good coffee taste good. So yeah, I guess looking back, I'm just looking back at the coffee that you guys ordered. So um, yeah, it's interesting because you guys got two different coffees from Ecuador, which seemingly looking at them maybe would be really similar coffees, but they're actually totally different coffees, which I think is really fun. So they're both Mejorados, which is like a really special variety that's mainly grown in Ecuador. We love this variety. It's really great. We love like to us, like we really love like the more like floral and complex coffees. Those are coffees that really excite us. We love acidity. We love kind of like complex fruit flavors in a clean way. And so you guys got the Lugmapata and then the Abel Salinas. And it's just really interesting because like they're, to me, like the Lugmapata is like a very intense coffee. It's like super fruit forward. It's like very expressive. This one did go through like a slight anaerobic fermentation period, which we tend to like not buy a lot of like processed coffees. We like to taste the coffee. Personally, I've been a huge fan of coffees from Lugmapata for like the last like I don't know, like 7 years. I remember like 7 years ago trying when I worked for the other roasting company in Massachusetts, I tried a sample. It was like the first harvest that they had done. I tried a sample and it was just mind blowing. It was my first time trying Mejerado, and it was just crazy how complex and amazing this coffee was. And so I've loved the coffees from that farm ever since, but we've never been able to buy it because it's been really sought after and really like just hard to buy. Like there's been like a couple of roasters that buy it. And so this is our first year buying it, which was really exciting. We worked directly with them. We just bought it from them. And Yeah, so yeah, like I was saying, it's a little bit different than a typical coffee from us in the fact that it is incredibly it is and it isn't, because it is like this anaerobic wash coffee. But to me, like the reason why we don't buy a lot of anaerobic or like processed heavy coffees is because we think they all taste very similar. And to us, what's really interesting is tasting like the coffee grown where it was grown, and like like what Mayorado tastes like grown on that farm. Like that's what's really interesting to us. And when you do too much processing, you kind of just taste the process, and it doesn't really matter where the coffee came from or what variety it is or whatever. And I think this is a really good example of like it done really well. Like to me, this coffee was like it had intense strawberry flavors, intense berry notes, intense like melon. But it was like overall, like it was still like a clean, fun coffee, just really expressive. What was interesting though, to me, it didn't have like typical Mejerado flavors. But it was just like a beautiful, really fun coffee. So we were really excited about that. We're really excited to like start working with this farm. We're actually buying a little bit. It was received really well from people, which is I'm super happy about. So we actually have more that we just bought that is coming. So that was fun. And then I think what's really interesting though is that the fact that you also got Abel Salinas, which is another Mejerado from Ecuador. But it's just like totally different. Like to me, this is just like a clear, crisp, incredibly clean representation of like what this variety tastes like. And that's like really cool. Like I love this coffee. I think it's like incredibly complex. It's so as like incredible sweetness. Just really great flavor clarity. It's just like super floral, super citric, stone fruity. It has this very unique yeah, it's just this like really unique floral like flavor and aroma that is like really typical with this variety. So I think it's like, for anybody that maybe got to try both, I think it's really interesting, to like taste like a really like crystal clear, clean version of this variety, and then also taste like a little bit more expressive, like fruit forward, slightly more processed version of like the same variety, which is really cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think both really good coffees. Abel Salinas, he got first place in Cup of Excellence a couple of years ago with this coffee.
Mhm.
So he produces amazing coffee. This is our second year buying it, and we're gonna just kind of keep buying it because it's super good.
Yeah. Yeah. Real quick,
So
just
yeah.
those two coffees. This was my first time having anything from Lugmapata,
Hmm.
and I think this was also my first time ever trying something from Abel Salinas.
Mm.
There's a small possibility I may have had it before, but I don't genuinely remember. And you were just so spot on. Both very complex, both amazing as shots as well as brews. Just ecstatic about both. The Lugma pod I wrote down 8 specific flavors, let alone, acidity and sweetness. And I was just like, this is just a really neat, like you said, version of a Maraudo. And man, remarkably stunning, both of them. And the Abel was just like you said. It was clear, it was clean, it was just crisp and floral and sweet. And man, yeah, it was genuinely. We were lucky. We were very lucky to get these coffees. Yeah, very much so. Anyway, yeah, I just had to say that because
Yeah, no, totally. I'm glad that you did get them. They're really great. I don't know. Coffee from Ecuador is really cool. It's like you don't see a lot of it. It's like the lowest producing country, and the coffee's typically also really expensive. So it's like not everybody buys a lot of Ecuadorian coffee, but I think that they produce like some of the most complex, like interesting coffees like on the planet. So it's an origin we're really focusing a lot on. We like have a couple more lots that are coming soon that we're really excited about. But yeah, it's like usually a lot of times you'll see it and like it'll be a short window that you see it on a roaster's menu. So they're
Yeah.
really cool coffees, and they just grow really interesting varieties. A lot of Cedra, a lot of Mejorado. Really, really cool. So yeah, I'm glad that you got those. Those were super fun. And then let's see, you guys also got the Ethiopia Bukisa, which
Mhm.
is another really nice coffee. Yeah, so like we don't, you know, we don't buy a lot of naturally processed coffees. And we for like the same reasons kind of that I said before, but we've been buying naturals from Terwaje, who's the kind of owner of a lot of these washing stations. He owns this like exporting company called Suco Coffee, and he's a super nice guy. We've met him a bunch of times over the year. He's great, and he produces just like incredibly clean naturals. Like I remember like a couple of years ago, like I don't even know how. I think he just like messaged us on Instagram, I think, and then he like texted me on WhatsApp, and then just like sent us samples. And like we were just like blown away with like how good these naturals were, because we were pretty like anti-natural at the time. But like he just manages to produce incredibly clean naturals that are like, you can definitely still tell it's a naturally processed coffee, but it's like not as heavy to me, and it's more floral driven. It's like more like melon candy and like floral, which is
Mhm.
really fun and really nice. They're like, it's not like the traditional like heavy like blueberry natural Ethiopian that you think of. It's like more refined,
Yeah.
which we really love. So yeah, it's a great coffee. He does it. Yeah, he produces really great coffees. We I think this year we probably bought like four different lots from him, and we also did buy his first ever washed lot, which we're about to taste samples of the new harvest of that too. So yeah, it's he's great. He does really great stuff, and he's also just like he's super nice and just like super like passionate about coffee, and super like he's really motivated to do the best that he can and to learn. So
Mhm.
we've been working with him now for I guess 4 years, I think. And yeah, every year he just does a great job producing naturals. So
Well, like you said, this was super clean, and one of my favorite tasting notes that I personally got out of it was like almost like a bright cherry milkshake kind of.
mm,
This,
mm,
let alone everything else that you mentioned, and it was just very, very wonderful. And I couldn't get over the florality was just like pink and white florals for me personally, and
mm-hmm.
just
Totally.
very, very enjoyable, both on pour over and espresso. I probably preferred it as a pour over, but one just interesting thing, as an espresso, it coated the mouth so well. Like not,
Mm,
it was not heavy, but it still was just like, I don't know, it was like almost lingering, so to speak, just all over. And I was like, this is just amazing. And so very neat. Yeah, Turwaji, I know very little about him, but we've gotten a lot of coffees from, or from him, through other roasters, and they've all been wonderful. So that was kind of one of those coffees that when I was looking through your list, I was like, this looks pretty good.
yeah. Yeah. Totally. It's yeah, no, I think his coffees they're super popular now too. You see a lot of roasters like I think like that have his coffees, like he has like Shundisa, which is one of his washing stations, Bukisa, Layo is another one. So he has like a lot of different washing stations. And it's cool because they're all in like slightly different areas in Ethiopia. And so you'll find like a little bit of different like flavor profiles. Some are a little more intense, some are a little more delicate, but they're all like really clean and really like well processed coffees. So yeah, he does really great stuff.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and then I guess the other coffee you guys got, that Peru, right? The San Martin de Pengoa, the geisha. And that's a fun coffee too. It's you know, we don't buy a ton of coffee from Peru. And I think we've only bought coffee from Peru once, actually, like one year. And then we've most years we don't. And then this year we've bought in a couple of different lots from Peru, and it's been really kind of like fun and interesting to like see what the coffee is like, you know, because I think like a lot of, at least for me in the past, I've always associated Peru with like kind of like simpler coffees, you know, kind of more like chocolatey, nutty, you know, like approachable for sure, but like more like, and like usually they're like fair trade organic certified coffees, which is nothing wrong with that, but like they're just usually um more for like higher volume kind of like uses, you know. So you know, this year we kind of bought, kind of like just tried to explore a little bit more of Peru and see what was going on. And this geisha was one of the coffees that we ended up buying. And it's like, to me, for particularly for like the value of this coffee, like it was a very affordable coffee, you know. So this is like a community lot geisha. So basically three different producers who all live in, so San Martin de Pengo is like the name of the community. And so it's a mix of three different farmers coffees, all super high altitude, like 1,800 to 2,000 meters, and with all like pretty small farms. And so it's a blend of all of their geisha. And yeah, honestly, like when I first tasted the sample of this coffee, I was just like, it to me had like a lot of like, it was very creamy, it was very floral, it was very like, I was getting like a lot of like kind of those like soft typical geisha florals like honeysuckle and bergamot and stuff, and like a little bit of stone fruit. And it was, yeah, it was a super enjoyable coffee for us. You know, I think in comparison to some of the other ones, I think it was like a little softer overall, like a little bit like, to me, like I was getting like a lot of like creaminess, soft florals, a little bit of peach nectar as it cooled, some like kind of like baked peach kind of flavor. And yeah, it was a super fun coffee for us to have. And yeah, to me, it's just like also exciting to see the like, you know, what's out there, you know, like what's the potential for quality and like places that we haven't bought coffee before, you know.
Yeah. Well, well, a couple of things I like about this coffee. Number one, like you said, Peru's not, particularly a sought after origin as far as I can kind of tell, with roasters. And so when I saw the Peru, I was like, I want to get it,
Hmm.
because we don't see it very often.
Mhm.
Also, when I saw that it was a washed Geshev for your price point, I was like, I was a little surprised. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
And I personally, oh man, like I genuinely kind of fell in love with this coffee. And I love that y'all wrote down vanilla as a flavor.
Mm.
That is a flavor I personally find more fleeting than others and harder to distinguish sometimes personally for me. And so this was a coffee that it was very distinct. And
Mm.
that was well, it was very special. And even and you'll see when I send you kind of my notes if in case you're interested, like I literally like no just noted that. I was just like, this is a real delight, that
Mm.
it's hard to kind of come by. And just like you said, peach, like I wrote down nectarine sweetness and sticky mouthfeel, mandarin, red grape, just lovely, lovely acidity on this coffee. And as a shot, one thing that I really liked is it almost brought out some like cocoa powder sweetness and then like a sugar cookies aftertaste. Like
Mm.
just randomly, again, I may be way off, but nonetheless, I loved it.
That's awesome.
This coffee was a real treat, Lucas. Yeah, again, it was hard to choose from all your coffees because all of them were very good. And it's just always a win when there's not a single coffee that, underperforms, but all of them are just exceptional and genuinely better than I thought they would be. Is
That's awesome. I'm so happy to hear that.
Yeah, yeah. And we also, yeah, lastly, we got the decaf, which all
Yeah.
that was great. Yeah.
Yeah, I was happy that you did. Yeah, yeah, that decaf is great. Sadly, I don't have any more right now. We're like waiting, like we probably won't have more of that specific decaf until like maybe the summertime. There's like a massive like backlog. There's like one main decaffeination plant down in Colombia, and it's like very backed up. So like
Sure.
right now, getting decaf from Colombia is pretty hard.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, so this coffee is really special for us for like a lot of reasons. So Moncaba is a producer group in San Augustine, Colombia, and they're like, yeah, like hands down our closest partnership in, out of where we anywhere that we buy coffee. Um, it's yeah, there's a ton to say about the group itself, but basically it started a couple of years ago, basically by somebody who was a lead cupper for a really big exporting company in Colombia, and he was a smallholder producer, and essentially like even though he was like the head cupper of this like exporting company, a very well established, well known exporting company, he still was never guaranteed if his coffee was going to be purchased or not. And it just like seemed like a backward system, And so him and his some members of his family, they started this group Mancaba, where it's essentially a group, a producer-led initiative to try and like bring market access to smallholder producers who haven't had market access before. So basically, the whole goal of it is to like get more smallholder producers to like have like autonomy and like have like a say basically in like where their coffee goes, and like just be more connected to the whole process rather than just like selling it to some local buyer and then not having any idea of what happens. So they've like set up a cupping lab where they like, if producers are interested, they can come and you know cup their coffee and like basically like learn more about it, because like the reality is that like most like coffee farmers don't taste their own coffee, and they don't know really, and unfortunately they're intentionally not like taught like what like their coffee is, because it's a lot of people who buy coffee, a lot of these like coffee buyers in these places, like they don't want people, the growers, to like know if their coffee's good or if it's like, because then they'll have to pay more for it, you know what I mean? So basically this whole group started just to be able to like spread more knowledge about specialty coffee and create markets for people that have not been able to obtain international sales before. So pretty much 90% of our Colombian coffees we buy from this group. It's kind of a group of people that we buy their coffee no matter what, so we've committed to buying their coffee, whether what like basically like there's specific people who we've bought from, where no matter what happens, no matter if the quality is up or if it's down, like we're going to buy the coffee no matter what, because to us we feel that like committing, we want to view this in a long term, so by committing to long-term partnerships, that's how we build quality over time, so we don't want to just like only cherry pick the best coffees. We want to build meaningful, lasting relationships with people where we can grow together. So yeah, this whole Moncava group, they're amazing. It's mainly young producers who are really excited and eager to like learn more about what they do, and like coffee growing is like their livelihood, and it's like it's everything. So this decaf is from a group of different producers from the Moncaba group. Basically, it's certain when you export coffee, sometimes there's like little bits of coffee that are left over. Sometimes maybe there's certain lots that maybe didn't make it into the micro lot selection. So this is a blend of different producers, coffees from that group that is then processed down in Colombia. And yeah, the decaf is amazing.
Yeah.
people love it. People kind of have gone a little bit crazy for it, honestly, at times. It's incredibly sweetness driven. To me, it's like a lot of molasses, a lot of like wafer cookie, really like honeyed sweet. And yeah, it's just like, to me, it's like, I think what I love about it is so many times people will have it and like they'll like have preconceived notions about decaf and thinking that it's terrible. And then they'll drink this and they'll think it's great. Like we've had people drink this and like say that it's like one of the best just like coffees they've had, like not decaf coffees, just like coffees. So yeah, it's a great. Not only is it a great decaf, but it's just also like it's a way for us too to like um, further our like financial support to this group. We can buy more volume, which is really important. So yeah, it's a great coffee all around, just like
Yeah.
in flavor and also just in like
Well,
just what it represents. So
yeah, we loved it as well, and just like you said, it was one of the better decafs we've had, which is always appreciated and always exciting, and I loved I wrote down marshmallow sweetness, and
mm,
it was just super tasty and something that I noticed is it almost seemed to have a distinct pyruvic acid, which isn't
mm,
something I typically look for, but sometimes will show up in a coffee and is actually amazing. And I think this was a perfect example of like that burnt caramel kind of taste, but like in a way that you want to to
yeah.
to taste that. It was just really special. And yeah, it was just a really, really neat decaf. So I was kind of happy to get a hold of this. I don't think there's another group that I don't think I've had coffee from. Like feel
Mm.
like Moncava is a name I'd remember, and I don't remember. And so it's kind of neat that out of all, yeah, the producers and people you work with, this is kind of one of those more long-term ones that really says something. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. Honestly, like San Augustine is like a paradise. It's like the most beautiful place in the world, and the coffee from there, like, is incredible. And they're growing incredible varieties, and it's just yeah, it's really special.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah, these coffees all were amazing, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing how we can continue working with you guys. I'm excited that we finally got to do it this year, and
Yeah, same.
so amazing to send out samples, all of the above. Like, very, very excited. I remember during our first kind of conversation, I don't remember when it was, a year ago or longer, but you and Rebecca had kind of mentioned, that you two are genuinely trying to be, kind of like one of the best roasters, so to speak, in the world. And I think you guys are doing it. Not gonna lie. Uh,
Thank you.
this was this was one of those times where I just, like, no shame to other roasters, but every once in a while, whether it's for our subscription or other things, sometimes we'll get coffees that tend to not be great, and not to so to speak, put aside producers or anything, or sometimes roasters will just not give us information about, the producers themselves. And
Mhm.
it's just been neat, obviously I've been on your website a lot, reading about these things, and I love how you guys just have a lot of information, and yeah, just, kind of everything already said is you guys are just doing a really special job, and very, very excited that we get to be, the recipients of that is very, very nice. So yeah, yeah, but kind of moving on. So you've been roasting for a while, and you guys have been open for about, I don't know, 7 or so years. What's kind of is there anything specifically that you guys are excited about, maybe in 2025, or doing something different or exploring different things?
Yeah, good question. I think, just getting started and getting, it takes time to when you like start a business to like get like just to kind of figure it all out, and just to like figure out like where you stand and like what you also want to do and what you want to be, And so I think this last year was a really good like kind of like foundation building year for us, in terms of like what do we want to be and like what like how do we want to grow. And so, yeah, I don't know. I think this year we're kind of just really looking towards like, we want to do one thing we want to do is more stuff like this. We want to do more like educational things, because I think it's really important for like you're saying, like I'm glad that you appreciate it. Like I think it's really important that like people have more of an understanding of like the thing that they're actually consuming, and like where it actually comes from. And so we want to work towards like more like educational content, and like things like that to kind of like, yeah, show like what it is that we do and like how it might be different from like other things and what other people are doing. So that's one thing that we're kind of focusing on, is just like that kind of realm. And yeah, just like overall, like it's an interesting time of year right now where we like are doing a lot of planning for our purchasing, and like when we like our kind of whole purchasing model, it's very like forward thinking, so like we've basically already like booked all of our Ethiopian coffees that will be for next like for like this whole year, so we're kind of planning that and kind of looking to way like we're kind of trying to reevaluate the way that we purchase coffee, and like we're always trying to get more connected to the source, and like feel like be more like just involved, so we're going to be doing like probably a fair bit of traveling this year to different countries and stuff, to try and like solidify these relationships a little bit more. um and yeah, like I think like we're exploring different like essentially like the way our menu currently works is that we rotate coffees really quickly, which we do like. We like variation and stuff, but we're interested also in maybe like doing some like larger volume purchases where we can have more of an impact, kind of
Yeah.
what we're really trying to do where everywhere that we source is like, yeah, like have the most impact that we can. So what that will usually look like is buying more coffee from less people. And so that's something we're kind of working on. And then, yeah, I don't know. We're kind of just like, we're trying to work on just like steady, consistent like growth, like I think we've had like, we're looking for new like wholesale partners like yourself and stuff like that, where we can, because like I think what we're really realizing is like we need to continue to grow so that we can continue to like support more and more, and so we're looking for ways to do that. And yeah, I don't know, others I think down the line, this isn't probably a this year thing, but we are like thinking about like potential like cafe opportunity in somewhere, which probably wouldn't be like in our direct town, might be somewhere else in like a bigger city, so we're kind of like thinking about stuff like that, but those are bigger projects that would probably not happen this year, but it's a big like kind of planning year, I guess, for us.
Yeah. No, that's actually genuinely exciting, and it's funny. Well, I don't know if it's funny, but as a multi-roaster, we don't buy coffee from producers, obviously, and we don't roast. But it's nice that over the last like year and a half or so, we've kind of focused on a few different roasters buying a lot from, and trying to in a very small way, kind of support them in what they do, and it's odd, way to look at it, and I bet we barely put a dent, in actually helping in a way, but nonetheless, it is something that like we still think about, and where people ask us all the time, like, is there going to be another cafe eventually, as one does. And there probably won't be for a wee bit, but when we do, it's that added benefit of like, yeah, we can then buy more coffee from these roasters, and therefore, they can buy more coffee. And so it's kind of neat that you're thinking that as very directly, you need more wholesale clients or whatever. And yeah, that's just I'm glad to hear that. It's funny. Sometimes you think growth is like not a stigma, but it's like, oh, if you get big, you're gonna become, one of those people, and it's like, well,
Yeah,
sometimes you need to grow to make a difference, or
totally.
Yeah, yeah.
No, it's totally true. I think like yeah, there is that like fear of growth, and that's why I think like there's the right way and the wrong way to do it, you know? Like I think like to us, like we want to grow. We don't want to grow just so that we can like make more money, you know? Like we want to grow so that we can like deepen the work that we do and like do it better, you know? Because like as a small roaster, like yeah, it's like it's kind of like a drop in the bucket sometimes, you know? But like if we could grow and then like be able to like really like refine like our supply chains, like we can like actually like and like, you know, going back to like it's not the thing also too, it's like we're primarily working with like smallholder producers who like are maybe only producing like 500 pounds of coffee, you know? And so like for us like you can like there's so many ways you can make an impact, you know, like you can sometimes feel like as a small roaster like, oh, what am I really doing? But like if you can commit to buying that 500 pounds from that person every year, like that's going to change somebody's life, you know. And so I think there's just like more opportunity to do stuff like that, and like you were saying too, like honestly like what you're doing like it's huge, you know, like it's so helpful when you have like a clear communicating customer that like is just yeah open about like the relationship, you know what I mean? Like 'cause I think like in the multi roaster world there's so many cafes that just like are rotating all the time and just like whatever, like, and I get it, but having like it's I think as a small roasting company, it's like super important and valuable to have partners that like you can rely on, whether that's they're going to order every week or every 6 months. Like you
Yeah.
can rely on it, you know, which is really helpful. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah.
No, that's a great way of putting it. And well, it's yeah, you're just spot on. It's one of those. It's a pet peeve of mine when like multi roasters kind of cycle in and out of roasters almost too much. Like, and
Hmm.
obviously there's a conversation to be had, so to speak. But in terms of, being someone who, I appreciate it when you and Rebecca have great relationships with your, producers, co-ops, and farmers. So then why wouldn't I want to have a good relationship with you? Is very like, that so that's always been something in my mind of like, yeah,
Hmm.
sure, like being a multi-roaster, like part of like the fun, it is getting to try different roasters and everything of the sort. But at the end of the day, sometimes you find ones that number one, you don't want to let go of, number two are
Yeah.
just too great and doing such good work that like you got to get close to them. They're doing amazing things. I want to learn. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
yeah, yeah. There's one of just to like put one of the roasters that we work with very much a lot. Knockbox out of Hong Kong.
Hmm.
Patrick Tam, the owner, he used to be a doctor before getting into coffee, and one of those kind of fairy tale stories of like a friend giving him a coffee when he closed down like a cafe or something of the sort. It's been a long time. um, oh wait, no, I'm very much sure that is actually Yasu of Leaves' story. Um, definitely got that wrong. But I don't remember how Patrick then got into coffee, but Patrick Tam, he kind of quickly, started doing judging for COEs, and he's traveled to Ethiopia quite a bit. And so all the coffees that we've gotten from Knockbox, every time I get to chat with, Ellie, their wholesale manager, is just saying, man, like we've gotten some really special things in that, are harder to come by because we've just been doing this for a while. And that's just the neatest thing. And that, you guys are doing this too, like with Moncaba, and, 5 years from now, you'll be having purchased 5 more years of Abel Salinas or the Marino family, and so it's really neat to find people like you who are just doing these fun, wonderful things, and to just get to try it and everything of the sort. Yeah, yeah.
Totally. Yeah. And it's great for us to find people that are, you know, interested in it. So yeah, this is great.
Yes. Speaking of which, before I forget, and obviously I can't email you this, but this is our first year of trying to do, I guess more than one roaster takeovers. And so, if it ever interests you, like we would love to genuinely host you,
Oh, nice.
like everything of the sort, kind of. just do anything to make that happen.
That would be super fun. Yeah, we should definitely talk about that.
I would love that. Yeah, we have a couple right now. We've got Moxie and H&S and Reprise and Little Wolf, so we've
Nice.
you lined up for the year, but we just we're very excited to honestly have that person, the roasters, be able to talk about their coffee and their relationships, more so than through us,
Mhm.
I think that's just a really special thing that, people get to do. And if we can make that happen, we would very much love to. Oh my gosh, so much. You have no idea. Uh,
That sounds great.
yeah. So I asked you this last time we chatted as well, and I kind of don't remember your answer, but now where you're at, at Ilsa, who are also the individuals right now that you look up to and get inspiration from?
Oh, good question. Let's see. Well, we work really closely with an importing company called Samia Coffee, and the owner and founder of that, his name is Brendan Adams, and like he's amazing. Like we endlessly learn so much from him. So I would definitely just like check out like their kind of everything they're doing because we work incredibly closely with them, and it's exactly what I've been talking about is like their whole thing is like connecting smallholder producers with roasters and like figuring out different ways to like trade coffee, because like the real like, like it's been based on this like kind of broken system forever, where it's like tied to the C market. Even when we're buying like coffee that's not directly tied to the C market, like coffee always will be, and so it's like figuring out different ways to kind of like a new way basically like make this work, that is benefiting everybody because kind of the current system is it's not benefiting smallholder producers, it's leaving them in the dark. So he's amazing, Samia is great, they're definitely endless resource for us. And yeah, I don't know, that's I guess other than anyone else that I'm thinking, yeah, I don't know, I still love Coffee Collective, like I still think that they're a company that like I really respect. And also like yeah, like Tim Wendelbo too, like I don't drink his coffee a lot, but like what I deeply respect about Tim Wendelbo is that like he's not trying to he's not trying to be the highest scoring roaster on every cupping table. He's just trying to buy the best coffees from the farms that he's committed to buying from. So like he's not heavily rotating his menu. He's not buying from these like famous farms that are like, the most popular farm at the moment. Like he's committed to the people that he works with, and he's just buying more coffee from them, which I think is amazing. I think like more people should be doing things like that rather than like just following trends. And I get like the whole thing is it's like it's such a competitive market, because everybody's trying to kind of like compete to get into all of these like places, and um I think that there's other ways to define quality, like other than just cup score, and so I think like he's an interesting example that's doing just that. So,
That's well, yeah, very well said. And I love that too about him. Just not working with a million producers, so to speak, but man, he's got great relationships with who he works with. And yeah, it's really
mhm.
so, not being a roaster, I actually don't know how this really has affected, the coffee world, so to speak. But yeah, kind of looking at both the C market because it's gone up, quite high. I think it hit, and obviously you're probably more aware of it than I am, as well as some of the tariffs and whatnot. But as a roaster, like what has that been like, either or, just navigating in the last 6 months or so?
Yeah, it's been, I think forever, like the C market has never been something I've ever thought about really, because it's never been really like applicable to what we do. And like we're like it, I think no matter what, like I say that, but like yeah, no matter what the coffees that we buy, there is some effect from the C market price on it. Because there's always going to be like a ceiling, I think, at some points. But basically up until recently, I've never really even like paid attention to what the C market price is. Uh, um, and like past like $4 a pound, I think yesterday, which is like um, obviously really high. And so it is something that like we're definitely like aware of it and we're looking at it. I'm not like to us like we're not like I'm not really worried. If anything, I think this could be an interesting opportunity for us because I think that like roasters who rely heavily on like lower quality like blender coffees from Brazil or something like that maybe we're buying the coffee for like 250 a pound, like they might have to pay 450 a pound now. And so they're going to definitely have to raise their prices, and so like we also might have to raise our prices because coffees just might be more expensive a little bit, but it's going to be a way smaller difference for us, I think, so it's an interesting situation, I think, for us. The biggest thing for I think us right now is that we need to like, I think in instances like this, it's like super important to like this is where like forging relationships I think really matters, because the scary thing in like a quality perspective is that like so like for example like in Colombia right now because the C market is so high, a coffee producer can sell their coffee for a really good price no matter what the quality, so they can like not process it all the way, they can sell it like basically like still wet and get a really good price for the coffee. And so um on one hand, if you're like a smallholder producer, like that's like way easier, it's like a lot easier just to like sell your coffee and not like process it all the way down to specialty. And so for us, I think it's super important to like maintain good communication and like and kind of continue to forge these like strong relationships so that like the people that we buy coffee from like know that we're here to still buy it for like whatever price it needs to be bought at, so that basically it doesn't just get like sold like not as specialty coffee, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
um, so it's interesting, I'm like definitely I'm personally really fascinated to see like what is going to happen and what certain companies or how they're going to react, like some larger companies, like what are they going to do, what types of coffees are they going to buy. So yeah, it's something that in the past has never had like a serious impact on us, but now it's something that's like we're looking at and thinking about. I think like for the most part, I feel really like good about our position within it all. Like we already pay like really high prices for coffee and we're really buying really high quality coffee. So yeah, those prices might be a little bit more this year, but like for the most part, our clientele is okay with that. We're not mainly selling to people that need to be like buying really cheap coffee. So
Yeah.
so yeah, it's interesting. It's definitely it's a wild time kind of. And the tariff thing too is like I guess that's just like a day by day. We'll just see
Yeah.
what happens, like the whole Colombia tariff for a second was definitely really scary and concerning. So I think it's something that we're just gonna have to, yeah, just like kind of day by day see what happens. But for us, I think that like leaning into our relationships and like doing even a better job of like forward thinking of like maybe that looks like even buying a little bit more coffee than we think we need, because I think with the market being so high, I think there's going to be very little like spot coffee available, like importers aren't going to be buying a lot of coffee, I don't think, but but like pre-committed coffee, is kind of going to be really important, I think, which is kind of how we've always done it anyway. But I think we might need to just like focus at it a little more.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's very interesting and something we don't have to deal with and we've heard kind of little, from any of the roasters that we work with. So, we continue to hope for the best in every regard, but the idea of paying higher prices for coffee, for us also is kind of one of those things where it's like, well, man, if it's benefiting, like then good, we want people to be able to live well. So, yeah. Th
Yeah.
This is kind of a random question, but I'm actually intrigued. Because you guys are in the Northeast, what is the coffee culture like out there actually? Like
Hmm.
I know, sorry, I know this is like kind of a very random question, but it genuinely just like popped into my mind because recently I've kind of been doing some very little traveling in the South and sometimes to the West, and so I've spent a lot of time out West and a little bit in the South and a lot in the Midwest. So I feel like I kind of know like all of that, like I've been to kind of all those big cities, whether it's Denver, or, it's whether it's LA or Seattle or you know, a Nashville, it goes on, but I've actually yet to spend a lot of time in the East and what is that what is that like? I know it's a ridiculous question, but I am actually intrigued.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that like in our particular area, there's not like a huge presence of specialty coffee. So we're kind of like the one, we're kind of like um, introducing people, I think, to like different coffee. There's like a lot of other roasters around, but they're a little bit more like maybe like second wave type roasters. So we're kind of, I think, introducing kind of this like different roasting approach and kind of like way of talking about coffee, which people seem to really like. They seem to be really into it. I think it's a growing the general East. If we're just talking about the whole East Coast, I think overall a big reason why we started the company originally was because we felt like there was like a big lack in specialty coffee on the East Coast. Like yeah, there was like Say in Brooklyn, and there's like Little Wolf, and like I guess like Tandem in Maine, but like there wasn't like a ton else when we started, and so we were like, this is crazy. We gotta swim about that. And so generally, I think that the specialty scene um, is a little bit untapped, I think. But I think people are getting more interested, and I think we're heading in like a good direction in terms of people like wanting like different things. So
That's exciting. One of the reasons why I bring that up is my coffee career technically started in LA. And, now more than ever is it, unbelievably saturated with, a third wave coffee shop on, most corners, so to speak. And so it's become in some ways redundant when you find a roastery who doesn't have a relationship or has never, talked to anyone except for maybe the importers and they have no information on the coffee. But yeah, it was just a really expensive coffee, so they just bought it, and which is fine in, some ways and in, that's another conversation as well. But it's just an interesting thing because like the Midwest is actually I can see it growing, kind
mhm.
of slowly and in certain ways in the South as well is like it's just kind of slowly moving towards things, but it's interesting hearing different coffee professionals' takes on what's happening in the regions and what their idea of quality is like and it's just interesting to see and even in St. Louis there's a couple interesting things happening kind of now funny enough in the coffee scene and all of us we all have opinions on it here in St. Louis and so it's like it's interesting seeing who's able to come together and in camaraderie and who's simply kind of there just to be there. And it's very interesting and I haven't spent any time on the East Coast and so it's kind
Yeah.
of yeah, funny you mentioned I'm also now kind of realizing other than those few roasters you mentioned, I also don't know of many out there at the moment, so it's just neat to hear you guys doing this. I don't know in full what it's like out there, but nonetheless, it's exciting that you're doing what you're doing out there. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
I love it. Well, I think this about sums it up for the most part. although I could probably keep asking questions. I think this was a fantastic amount of time, and you answered everything just spot on. So, yeah, I mean, is there anything else you would like to add at all, or not particularly?
I think this has been great. I think, yeah, thanks for doing this and putting this on and stuff. And it's always nice just to like talk with other people about coffee and hear different perspectives and stuff. So no, yeah, I guess that's really it for me. I hope everybody enjoyed the coffees, and yeah, looking forward to doing something like this again.
Absolutely, yeah. You'll definitely be hearing from me soon, and I'll send over the notes now, just for you to
Cool.
have. And I got to tell you, all my staff loved your coffees.
Oh, amazing. That's
We were
great.
yeah, we were able
Yeah, I
to.
feel like we noticed a lot of just like on our Instagram and stuff, we noticed, I feel like a lot of like stuff that like seemed like it all came from your spot, which was
Sure.
cool.
Yeah.
Um,
We,
so,
we're not like a big subscription to. We have around like 45 people.
mhm,
Anywhere between, I think at least 10 are like very much out of the state, like either on like the West Coast or like up north, like very random people who like subscribe with us. But most people just pick it up at the cafe.
mhm, mhm.
And already just our staff and some of the people, actually yesterday a couple came in who they get two bags every month, and so they got, I don't remember which ones they got honestly, but they came in like, and what today's the sixth, and they picked it up on the first, and they were like, oh yeah, we finished them. They were incredible. And it's like, oh my
Wow.
God. You
That's
had si-
great.
yeah, you had like 5 or 6 days with it, and you're just like, like that's saying something.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Darn. But yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Lucas, for hopping on this call. I'll throw this interview, like it'll be on YouTube and on our website as
Oh,
well.
nice.
So
Cool.
if anyone else wants to hear your voice and to learn from you, direct them in that direction. But I can't thank you enough. Very, very much looking forward to chat more and work with you guys in some way. Hopefully, by the end of this year, if not sooner. So.
Totally. That sounds great. Awesome. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, same. Have a great night, Lucas. Take
Yeah, you
care.
too. See ya.